Hello everyone, it's Anna, also known as Book Anna, and today I have another sit-down video for you, and that would be book recommendations. I filmed this video once before. It was one of the first video I ever filmed, but I wasn't very happy with how it turned out because I thought it was kind of too long and I didn't explain books as I wanted to. So this time I wrote down some basic things like, book summaries and why I would recommend them, and I decided that I'm going to do these recommendations based on some kind of prompt that I pick, and this time the prompt is small town feel books. So the books that I will be recommending today are going to be small town feel books. Of course, as you can see, I have a mic here and we'll see if the audio quality is going to be better. My video quality is still not that way, but I hope at some point I will be able to not film on my phone anymore because my phone video camera is not that good. So I decided to do these recommendations so I think there's 7 or 8 books that I picked, and every book is connected with the next one I'm going to be talking about with some kind of prompt also, but all of them are small town books. And I also decided to make them from the youngest stage to the older. So the first, I think, 2 books are more middle grade books, and then the last ones are more adult feel books. So the first book that I decided to recommend, that would be The City of Ember by Jeanne DuPrau. Yeah, I'm sorry, the last name still gets me, but this one I put as middle grade YA book. So the summary that I wrote down is: there was an end of the world and people needed to escape from Earth's surface, and they decided to escape underneath the earth and start living in town that is built in caverns around. And they were down there for a few hundred years. Everything was fine, everything was well, but then the food started running out, and also the light that they had started to flicker and wasn't working properly anymore. So now we have a problem because there's a bunch of people living underneath the earth and they do not know how to escape. They do not know what is above them, and they're scared. And we are following these 2 children named Lena and Dune, and they discovered this ancient old message that people before left for them, and they try to decode it, to decipher it, and try to make other people in their town believe them and escape these caverns so they can live on the surface again. I believe this book was popular in early 2000s because I know there's even a movie out called City of Ember, but I never watched the movie. I do plan to, but maybe when my brother or my sisters grow up a little more so I can watch it with them. But although this book is maybe a little more middle grade feel, I did enjoy it quite a lot. It's a part of a series. It's the first book in a series, but as I remember, you do not need to read the second and third book, because the second book, I think it's still connected, but not that much. You don't need to read it. It's kind of an add-on. And the third book is what happened before they went underneath the earth. So yes, all in all, I loved the series. I liked the first book the most. The second was good, and the third one was okay, but I enjoyed the whole series. The second book I put down is This Poison Heart by Bayron Kalynn. I put this book also as kind of a middle grade YA, but this one is also a fantasy. So we are following this young girl named Bree. She works in a flower shop with her mothers, and she has these special abilities in which she can grow plants by touching them. She can kind of control them, grow them out and make them bloom. So they kind of have a great flower shop, and they live in Brooklyn. But then one day, she discovers she inherited a house that is in a small town far away from Brooklyn, and they decide to move there and leave their flower store behind and their Brooklyn life behind. So they moved in this small town. They moved in this big mansion-like house, like a castle, and this house is also full of gardens, indoor and outdoor gardens, and there's a lot of weird plants that they never seen before, they never heard about before. I keep hitting my chin with this mic. They start making their flowers grow in this house also, and Bree starts getting familiar with the town, and she discovers that there's a little more to her powers and to her whole family lineage. So she tries to uncover the truth about that, whilst being in this old, kind of creepy but also really cozy house with her mothers. Anyway, I did enjoy this book. I didn't read the sequel. I think there are 2 books out now, and I know this author became famous with her book Cinderella is Dead, but I never read that one. I just read this one. I thought it was fine. I thought it was really cozy and it did intrigue me, and I liked the mystery, but I just never felt compelled to finish it because there are so many other books on my list that I want to get to before this one, but this book is not the one that I would put aside as a bad book. It's just a book that is currently series that is currently on hold for me. The next book I picked is Horrid by Leno Katrina. I put this book also as middle grade, but also horror, so middle grade YA horror book, and this one would be the most YA out of these 3, just because the horror aspect, right? So we are again following a girl called Jeanne, and Jeanne lost her father and she lives only with her mother. It's not a part of the series, it's just one book, so I think if you don't have a lot of time, pick this one up. Anyway, she lives with her mother, and her mother decides to move to California in a house where she grew up. And she of course takes her daughter with her, and Jeanne is she doesn't really fit in the town that they come into. She starts getting bullied, and she does not know how to really talk to other people, other girls. She doesn't really, she likes horror novellas, and yeah, she's kind of weirdo. She does not want to fit in, and she cannot fit in. Anyway, but the house that they arrive in is kind of decrepit. It's kind of creepy, it's old, and it's falling apart a little bit. Her mother starts acting kind of bizarre. She starts acting all weird, and Jeanne does not know why. But she starts finding out these little clues in the house that her mother is not telling her everything, and she finds this weird room that was said to be a storeroom, but it's actually something else. And I'm not gonna say anything else because I do believe that summary of this book is kind of spoilery, so I didn't want to put everything that I read in the summary of this book. But also, this book I read quite fast. I did enjoy it quite a lot. I thought it was a great middle grade YA horror book, and I liked Jeanne as a character. I liked the way it finished, and I do recommend this book to everyone who wants a little bit of horror, but they are on a younger side, so yeah. And the next one is also horror YA fantasy book. The last one was not fantasy, but this one is fantasy, and that would be Marina by Ruiz, Zafon, Carlos. This time we're following a boy and his name is Carlos, and he He attends boarding school in Barcelona, and now you're probably asking yourself, well, Barcelona is not a small town feel, but because this book is happening in, I do not remember if it's a whole small town near Barcelona or it's just a neighborhood, but it did have this small town feel. I didn't feel like we are in a big city, definitely, as I read this book. Anyway, he goes missing for a few days, for a week I believe, and nobody knows where he is and nobody can find him. But everything starts when he meets Marina, and Marina is this girl that he finds one day, and they start talking, and he starts hanging out with her and her old father in their house. And they also find out about this mystery that happened in graveyard. There's this bizarre kind of cult, gatherings on the graveyard, and there's this woman that is covered in black, and she goes over the gravestones and they try to figure out what is actually happening there. And one thing that I loved about this book is that it was so steampunky, and I love steampunk in my books. It did kind of remind me of Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare, the trilogy, because it's also steampunky and it happens in Victorian age. Now we're going to another YA horror fantasy book, and that would be The Luminaries. I talked about Luminaries 2 videos ago, but I feel like I didn't really explain it as good as I wanted to. Definitely I kind of fumbled with that one, but I figured this is the video to explain it a bit more. So this is also part of the series. The series is still not out completely. The second book just came out this year, and I have it on my reading list because I did enjoy the first one quite a lot. As I said in my previous video, I didn't hear a lot of people talking about this series. I do not know why. I didn't hear a lot of people talking about reading this series, and also on Goodreads it doesn't have a lot of reviews, but the reviews it has, they are quite good reviews. And anyway, it's that Luminaries by Dennard Susan. So this is also a horror fantasy book. We are in this small town called Hemlock Falls, and Hemlock Falls is kind of decapitated from the rest of the world. Decapitated. Well, yeah, it's not connected. Your phone doesn't work there, or it's just, a town for its own. And it's surrounded by this mountain range and also by these woods, and it's really hard to get out of it. But the town is different from the rest of the world also because there is an ancient order protecting it, and they're called the Luminaries. We follow our main character, Vinny, and Vinny really wants to join the Luminaries, and it's her 16th birthday, and she really wants to join them, but she cannot because her father a few years back was accused of betrayal and of being a traitor, so he needed to escape, and now she lives only with her mother and her brother, I believe. But she does not have even get a chance to try to get into the Luminaries, and you need to pass these 100 trials. After you're 16, you can pass these 100 trials. So she decides to try to pass them by her own without any kind of proper training, and she needs to kill the monsters, actually nightmares, that are in the woods by herself without anyone's help. And I'm not gonna say what happens after, but let's just say her father was maybe not who everybody thought he was. That would be the Luminaries. The next book I have is Gilded by Marissa Meyer, and that would be YA romance fantasy, I think, although it's a little scary, so maybe it would go into horror, but I wouldn't say it's as scary as that, but it's a bit scary. As you may know, Marissa Meyer she writes retellings of some fairy tales and some old tales, and this one is also retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. So we are following Serilda, and Serilda was given power, some kind of power by gods. She has little golden hoops in her eyes, and she tells everybody that she can make gold out of wheat. And because their town is also surrounded by woods, there's a lot of towns surrounded by woods, so yeah, but their town is also surrounded by woods, and then these woods are also monsters. And there's this Errol king that is actually the king of the woods and of the town, but he's very, very evil, and he kidnaps people from the town all the time. He finds out about Serilda's so-called powers that we do not know if she has, and he kidnaps her one night, and she needs to make him gold. So he puts her in a dungeon, and he tells her if she does not make any gold by sunrise, he will brutally murder her. So she cries in her little dungeon for a few hours, and then this little boy shows up, this nameless boy, and he tells her that he will make her gold if they struck a bargain. So they do struck a bargain. I'm not gonna say what bargain it is, but if you know the story of Rumpelstiltskin, you probably know what it is. Anyway, he makes gold for her, and he disappears by sunrise, and the king sees the gold, he lets her go, and he tells her that next full moon he will come again. So this is happening throughout the book, and book is divided by moon phases. This is also a series, but it's duology. I did enjoy the first book. It was quite fun for me because there's this relationship between this boy and Serilda. But the second book I didn't enjoy as much. I thought it was a bit too long. It was repetitive. But I would say that the series, all in all, is a good series, and also one of the, I think, maybe one of the least famous books by Marissa Meyer. So yeah, but I would definitely, if you like retellings and if you want a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin, I would definitely recommend this one. The next book I have is called Small Favors by Erin A. Craig, and it would also be horror fantasy, but I do believe we are out of YA territory because it's not YA that much anymore, maybe like something between YA and adult. Anyway, we are again in a small town surrounded by woods. You see a pattern here. And the town is called Amity Falls this time, and we are following Ellery, and Ellery is from a family of beekeepers. So if you like, bees and honey imagery, I would definitely recommend this book. I don't have cover here, but you will see it on screen. The cover is beautiful, and the cover is something that really made me want to read this book. But so, as I said, the town is in the middle of woods. It's surrounded by mountain range again. There is something in the woods again, some kind of monsters, and people go missing when they go into the woods, and you hear these screams from the woods, and nobody knows what actually is happening there. There's just stories about what is actually in them. But one day Ellery needs to start be a caretaker of her family because there was a fire and her mom got hurt. So now her dad needs to take her mom into a hospital that is in the city, and they need to go on this huge journey. So Ellery is alone with her siblings, and she needs to watch for them. And there's this again mystery boy that just comes into town, and she starts liking him, and they start conversing. And this boy is also not who she believes he is, and there's this whole town imagery of people kind of getting angry at each other, and you just have this. It's I think one of the most small town feel books on this list. Definitely. This book is not that short, or it's again not a part of the series, but it's I think 500 and something page book, and I read it in one day. That's how intriguing it was for me. I like Erin E. Craig writing style. I also read House of Salt and Sorrow by her. I didn't read the sequel of that one, but I do enjoy her writing style, and I do enjoy the way she tells stories. And the last book that I have on my list is The Once and Future Witches by Alix Harrow, and this is completely adult fantasy. So it is again happening in year 1893. There are no more witches. Every witch was burned to the crisp. Every witch was killed, so there are no more witches. Except there are 3 sisters that are witches, and they haven't seen each other in a long time, but then they kind of cross paths in this town, and they start to realize some things about this town and about people in the town and about their again lineage and who they are actually and where do they come from. So they all felt really attracted to this town, so something happened here, right? But they still don't know what. And the reason why I love this book so much is because it was an adult fantasy book, but it also had a lot of feminism, in it, and I really like family bonds, and this one had strong sisterly bond, which was explored throughout the book, and the way they just talked with each other, and they were part of the feminist movement. So it was very, very interesting, and I never read any other book like this one. I didn't read any other books by Alix Harrow, but I do want to. I think they have a book called Doors of January or something like that. The only thing that I remember with this book is that I also felt it was a bit maybe too long, but just a smidge too long, but it didn't make me love it any less. I did enjoy it still, and I would truly recommend this one as well. Alright, that would be all of my first book recommendation video. If you have any other, prompt for recommendations, ask me in the comments. I will try to make a list out of them if I read enough books with that kind of prompt. I do want this to kind of be a series on my channel of just recommending books based on the prompts, and this one just seemed the easier for the first one because I did read quite a lot of books that have this kind of feel. So yeah, but that would be all for my video. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you like my videos, you can maybe subscribe. I don't know, just if you want to maybe just subscribe. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. So bye.